Vancouver. My name is Sharon Kravitz. I was named after the ending of the Six-Day War in Israel. My Hebrew name is Shalom Esbrocha, and it means peace and blessing. My family role was the peacemaker, and like a lot of families, it was an ongoing war, and like the one in Israel, based on a false peace. What kept me sane was imagining a more peaceful, beautiful place, a place that was free of violence, my own planet, where kindness was the currency. I moved here in February of 1992, and I fell in love with you that day. Like any romance, we get drawn in by looks, but I was more interested in your personality. A few days after I arrived here, I took a bus to the downtown east side. Someone told me to stay away from the neighborhood, which of course made me curious. What could be so bad? When I passed the corner of Main and Hastings, I saw all these people outside around the Carnegie Center. Something about the place seemed so alive to me, in a way that the rest of you didn't. I didn't come there thinking I was going to save this place or anybody in it. I just wanted to feel like I was part of a community, and I imagined the peacemaker in me recognized a role for herself in this place. I saw this neighborhood I care about fight daily for its survival, while the rest of the city abdicated. No treatment or mental health facilities in other neighborhoods. Nothing that would interrupt the peace they paid for. All the heat left my body, and I started to hate you. Between the constant destruction of any part of yourself that made you interesting, between all the meetings, consultations, committees to decide on life and death issues, to decide on basic needs, enough reports to fill whole libraries on what to do about the downtown east side. One more meeting and I would have exploded. All you could do was build more glass towers. And more unaffordable housing. After 16 years of being totally committed to you, I had to come to terms with the fact that you were an addict. The downtown east side wasn't your biggest problem. It was just your best scapegoat.
We can personify a city. We think of it as a person, and of course a person can be addicted. We've got a lot of people who come here sort of as lost souls, and what they're looking for, of course, is a home, is a place to fit in. It's a solid, integrated community. But we don't have it.
I've heard a lot of people say this, but it is like the Wild West right now, because you have to sustain yourself and you have to do everything. You have to market yourself, you have to make your own media, record your own albums, book your own tours, and that's stuff that's, at this point, it's way over my head. You know, I'm trying to get as good as it as I can, you know, and we're trying to get people that can help us out with it and find as many resources as we can. Well, sometimes we'll just be playing and we'll all look at each other and you know that we're all thinking the same thing. Just like, fuck, like, yeah, we're not making any money and still no one knows who the fuck we are, but it's like, the energy's still there and we're still finding the inspiration to be excited about the stuff we're writing. You know, we're sticking to our guns and it just comes out on stage, that brotherhood that we share.
I guess there's something that you should know. I am training for a beer mile.
The beer mile is one of the hardest events on the track. Beer lap, beer lap, beer lap, beer lap. If you throw up at any point from the gun until the time you cross the line, you have to run a penalty lap. It's much, much harder than it even sounds. And I know it sounds hard. It's one of the worst feelings in the world when you cross the line. So why do you care about it? I ask myself that question every day since you told me you were doing this.
I cared because I wanted to defeat my old nemesis, JF. He was fast and quite competitive.
Is this thing on? You're going down, Matt Duquette. I don't care how hard you train.
To defeat JF, I knew that I would have to be in top physical condition. I went to a medical professional to get the go-ahead to train.
There are kind of risks when you're talking about alcohol involved with any kind of sports activity. If you're becoming more and more intoxicated and your body is really starting to reject you putting all this fluid in because you've done the one lap, you're breathing really heavily, you're tachycardic, so your heart rate is going fast, you're hypertensive, your blood pressure's up, you're now under a bit of distress, you drink back another beer, and you start running again. And as you're breathing heavy, and if your body wants to vomit, then there's always a risk of aspirating some of the vomit. And you could have any of these kind of things happen, which are quite serious.
For whatever reason, I wasn't processing Nurse Jones' advice. So today is Friday, and the plan is to have the beer mile race tomorrow. On Tuesday, though, I came down with some sort of sickness, and it has lasted all week. It's very difficult to run a beer mile when you're totally healthy, even when you're in shape. I did my best to recover, but I still felt horrible. The beer mile was about to go down, whether I was healthy or not.
My name is Spencer B. Powell. My name is Dave. I like to think that I'm a pretty big deal around here.
You don't have a hope.
For me, winning is just finishing.
Tension was high as we lined up to start the race.
All right, Spencer. Last night, so.
Dave. Spencer. Luck.
Good luck.
Yeah. All right.
Good luck, Spencer. Good luck.
Drinking it down! Green shorts. Woo! I'm going for yellow.
My name is Marshall Hunt. Born in North Vancouver, BC. I'm 21 years old. My passion is music. Grew up in Portland and Bainbridge Island, Washington. I guess I'd say I'm from Bainbridge Island. In 6th grade, I started playing flute because I thought it was cool, and switched to bass, electric bass. Just a year later, switched to upright in 8th grade because I wanted to play in the jazz band, which my teacher told me you gotta play upright. I moved to Bainbridge Island my freshman year of high school, started taking lessons from Chasey Marsh on upright, which is when I started really getting more into it. Starting to get into like Count Basie, Miles, Ray Brown Trio. Didn't really make a lot of friends. I mean, everyone kind of had their cliques. I don't know, I was having trouble really like wanting to hang out with people. You know, you still get just attached to like where you came from back in Portland. But I had bass and guitar, and I would just sit in my garage and play. I don't know, that was my weekends, that was my like evenings. I was more into just, I don't know, playing as much music as possible. It was really, really there for me. Always has been.
April 24th. Up around 8 a.m. Washed, dressed, etc. Had my toast and went to Funk's. Got milk, 6 corn, 2 tomatoes, and 2 packages of muffin baking cups. Got home and realized I was charged for a dozen corn, so I went back for my $2. For some dumb reason, after I got a funny, very dizzy hit.
I used to phone Jean every morning at 8:45.
I got a phone call from Milt, which is a friend of hers in her apartment building where she lives.
And she was sitting on the kitchen table holding her chest.
Stating that he thought my mother was having a heart attack. He got out to the kitchen, he sat down in the chair.
And she kept saying, I got such terrible pain. She didn't want me to phone the ambulance. So he said, phone Kelly, so I did. But I should have called him whether she said it so or not.
What I walked in on was a lady's in great pain. By the time I got there, Mom was in harm's way.
I hide no more from the memory of being in your hand, my childhood in your mouth, marked to break silence of the act of quiet violence. Who harmed you, woman, before you chose me to darkly bless and mark? Before I knew how to say no, before I was strong enough to break your hands and painted fingers, forever laying hold of me. Struggling to believe that God wants me as I am. God wants me as I am, deeply marked, the record of a story woven and carved into this broken body. If I can move, I'm okay. If I can pedal, I'm okay. Please, let me pedal just a little bit longer. Please. Please. One way or the other, this is the long road home.
I first encountered rock when I was about 14 and immediately was totally fascinated because it was so intimate, just you, the rock, on the moment. We climbed a very technical peak and we're just about to get onto the glacier, which was flat. When all of a sudden we heard this noise up above, little noise, and we looked up and there were these little dots bouncing out above us, way up at the very top of this 3,000-foot cliff. All of a sudden we realized, oh, that's a rock fall and it's heading this way. And these little things were actually huge boulders. We just pulled ourselves in on the slab, pulled our packs overhead, because now the boulders were starting to land amongst them. And the noise got so loud, it was this wild noise. There's no way I was going to survive this, because there's so many rocks pouring down. So just huddled up on this rock with my eyes closed, and just incredible noise around me, and then it started to fade away. We're here on this planet to live these most amazing, joyous lives, and it's our fears that keep us confined. When I look back at all the things I've done, it's really quite a long list. In terms of peaks, I've climbed probably 30 or so unclimbed peaks around the world. And then I've climbed the highest peak in South America, the highest peak in Australasia, the highest peak in Antarctica a bunch of times. I'm the first person to lead an expedition to the South Pole from one direction. And I'm the first person to ski right across Antarctica. Having been so successful and done all these things, I decided to change focus. So I got married, actually sold my expedition businesses, and stepped out of that into the role of just being a dad for about almost 2 years. But in that whole transition process, there was a time there where, because I wasn't in the cities where I was well known, I was a hero back home. Here I was in a city that nobody knew me, not doing anything of importance. Part of me felt alone, abandoned, just a bit lost, And I'd be wondering, oh, what am I doing here? when this whole project of going to K2 came up, K2 is the second highest mountain in the world, and it's a very difficult mountain, so it's a great mountaineering challenge. We ended up that my best friend decided to go, and I decided to stay. And then on the mountain itself, he reached the summit, but then on the way down from the summit, he fell. 5 close friends in all different disciplines died in about a year and a half. And so in that 1 year, all these friends who were top professionals, supposedly knew all the safety procedures, trained people in safety, all that stuff, all died. And every time they died, emotionally, there was a strong hit for me. And so that triggered a whole thought about, it wasn't a conscious thought about mortality, but energetically, something resonated in me.
I had a whole corporate life. I did a business degree. I had a house feel really weird. SUV, I was married. Could have been just all the pressure and the anxiety. I wouldn't sleep. Whenever winter came, and I was just really kind of dark thinking, or just very, depressed. And I could barely get up to go to the office, and my wife had to yank me out of bed, and I was just at my desk, just sitting there. The underlying current was this was kind of heading towards disaster. I eventually went to my GP and this one Friday and just said, this is what's been happening, and I explained the whole thing. And my wife's counseling psychologist thinks I have bipolar disorder. What does that mean? And he started rattling off these things. I'm like, okay, whatever. And I said, well, I need leave of absence from work. And he writes a note about this big on a prescription. And so I took that note, slipped it under my VP's door late at night on a Friday after my doctor's appointment, and I never went back. There's these kind of group sessions that happen during the day. And so one was an art therapy thing, right? And so I went there, and so the art therapist introduces everybody, and we do this exercise where there's a white sheet of paper, and she says draw a line down the middle of it and paint or draw what you're feeling on the inside on the left side, and feel what you're feeling on the outside on the right side of the page. And then so I started drawing these mountains and just stick people it was ridiculous. And then I just started bawling, crying. It just all came out. And I just let it go. So I just let it out, and I still wasn't stable at the time. And then I look up, and there's all the other people in the class, they're crying. And so the therapist said, what does everybody here feel? And some they said they're inspired, or I thought I was gonna get laughed at. But it was really very safe and supportive. And so I just felt this epiphany with art. It's wow.
Goodbye, Vancouver. Hello, Montreal. Finally, all those years in French immersion are gonna pay off. Being in Montreal, I had to have myself a nice smoked meat sandwich. Oh baby, was it good. With a full stomach, I made my way to the mecca of hockey, the Montreal Forum. It was strange being around all the statues of the gods of hockey. It gave me a weird feeling of fulfillment. I guess it's the same kind of feeling you get when you go on some sort of holy pilgrimage. But The statues outside were just a dirty tease compared to what I was going to see inside the Hall of Fame.
I want to give up every day and many times a day. But I think the experience of the people around me in these last few years, especially being cut open and having devices fail and not being able to walk properly, just pain every day, and to have a group of people that are like, you know, come on, you can do it. It's like, it's the hardest marathon. It's the hardest race I've, you know, like, I know bike racing is hard, but this life. One thing though, bike racing taught me though, was about the perseverance and about the pushing through, and also where to expend energy.
Yeah.
Because there's a time to preserve, which also allows you a time to expend.
Yeah.
And
have you read Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning?
No, but that's on my books to read.
Yeah, it's probably a pretty good read. I think, you know.
My name is Lindsay, and I hate red hair. Pretty much for as long as I can remember. I just happened to be born with really, really red hair.
What I remember about Lindsay's hair is that I didn't think that babies were supposed to have hair.
Yeah, she came out and she had red hair.
I remember your hair was red and curly.
The little tuft right on the top of your head. It was very cute.
It was all concentrated on the very top of your head, so you just kind of had a little... We would put little Velcro bows on it, which didn't make it look any better.
I think that's when I started to... Well, I began to wonder if it actually was the red hair that made the mischief, or it was just the constant stereotypes that, you know, shape our opinions of ourselves. That's when I started looking for other redheads. I started looking for people who were willing to tell their stories and talk about their experiences as being a redhead.
Like, our town was famous for having Canada's biggest Irish festival, so there was tons of Irish kids. So yeah, redheads were all over the place. Wasn't that bad.
You know, get a few names, Carrot Top and things like that, but it never bothered me that much. Although maybe subconsciously I think it bothered me a bit because I wanted my hair to go darker.
After a couple of interviews with people who had never really experienced anything negative because of their red hair, that's when I began thinking that maybe it was a bit more localized than I had thought. It was a bit more, you know, it was just within my friends and my family that this negativity was taking place. And then we met Gabriel. He was born and raised in a small town in Mexico, and he actually contacted me when he found out what my project was about. In Mexico, they're actually superstitious around redheads.
In Mexico, we think it's like similar, like the superstition of the black cats, or like getting through in the ladder inside. It's like if you see a redhead, you need to pinch somebody and say, pelirrojo, mala suerte, no hay corriente. It means like you block the bad luck.
We're dealing with puppies who are coming from inbred stock
ridiculous health care and all the rest of it. The gene pool of a puppy mill dog is off the charts in terms of, well, of course there's going to be health hiccups.
A common definition that's used in the animal welfare field is a place where dogs are bred repetitively with little to no regard for their health and well-being, and primarily for profit. So that can be anywhere from 5 breeding dogs in a place living in terrible conditions to row upon row of cages of dogs being bred repetitively until they have no more use in the breeding pool.
If you can picture a large warehouse, and in that warehouse there's row after row of shelving, and on that shelving is shelf after shelf of inventory. That inventory is typically very, very tiny makeshift cages, and in those cages are what we call lifers. And lifers are the mom dogs who are going to spend their entire life in a cage sometimes as small as a hamster cage, with no word of an exaggeration.
Exciting things that happened in 2010 for the BCSPCA was that the City of Richmond became the first city in Canada to ban the sale of dogs and puppies in pet stores. This was a very brave move on the part of the City of Richmond, and I think one that is a trend. In the States, there's numerous communities in the States which have already banned the sale of dogs and puppies in pet stores, and also cats and kittens. And what they're seeing is an increase in adoption in the shelters, a decrease in euthanasia.
I think that the counselors in Richmond deserve 3 cheers and a gigantic woo-woo.
I think the bylaw change is a first step. Some of the critics said, well, this is a drop in the bucket in this day and age of online, newspapers, Kijiji. Who cares? So what that 2 stores in Richmond? But everything starts with one first step. You can't climb a mountain without taking that first step.
I like how us NGs are crew team. Thank you. I've got a teleporter going into their sewer.
Well, right now, since I have, 5 years until I'm 30, they're going to be brought up playing video games and stuff, which is kind of the complete opposite of my parents, because I thought that video games would be absolutely horrible and stole all my time and served no purpose.
In Richmond Center, regulations require both hands to be empty before any case.
It was the best computer in this house until Friezo got his. But it's got an 8800 GTX and dual core processor. I can't remember the gigahertz now.
No, I haven't met a lot of people in Vancouver, just through school, and they're usually the ones coming over here since we have the wicked cool house.
I mean, I don't like going out to like a club where the music is so loud you can't talk to people.
Thanks, Jessica.
Won't be one of these people that's going to be all like, oh, no, video games, those are bad. Never mind, your father makes them. But I'm sure I would be putting limits on some sort of things. Like I wouldn't let them turn into a WoW junkie.
I'd raise them in the same way that my parents did. It was a choose your own adventure. They supported me in whatever I wanted to do. So it was, computers came out. My mom said, well, we need a computer. And I latched onto the computers. So it was kind of that idea. If they liked playing video games, liked computers and all that, I'd support them. But if they didn't, Well, that's fine.
Well, my first year of university, and I'm still 18. Graduated from high school at the end of June 2010. When I first moved in here, I didn't really look around that much. I just kind of needed somewhere to stay that was cheaper pretty quick. I was kind of running out of money. So I moved in here and realized that this kitchen doesn't work except for the sink and the microwave. Okay, so this is a shower. There's 2 on every floor, 1 on this end of the hall and 1 on that end. These are the bathrooms. They're kept pretty clean for the most part, but you do have to share with everyone in the building, so that kind of sucks, but I mean, they keep them stocked, so do what they can. And yeah, so I mean, like, it's alright, it's fairly clean, but you have to share all this stuff with everyone in the building, and every morning I wake up and there's someone in the shower at the exact same time I need to be, and every time I come in here we're out of toilet paper, but, you know, it's not bad.
Education for the masses, not just for the ruling classes. Education for the masses, not just for the ruling classes. Education for the masses, not just for the ruling classes.
The one thing that does really bother me about tuition is that I can't nourish myself the way that I want to. So if you look through my cupboards right now, you'll see spaghetti and Kraft Dinner and bread. I have tons of peanut butter, and I don't like eating like that. And I'm 28, you know, like, I think about the way food affects my body, and I get excited when I can make really good food. And so, you know, it breaks my heart when I go to the grocery store and I have to walk by, you know, spinach and red peppers and goat cheese and pine nuts, and I have to go to get a fucking can of Alpha-Getty or beans. You know, it's like, I can feel the way it affects my body, and so that's something that really annoys me. And it's probably the only thing that really gets to me. Everything else I can do without. I don't need new clothes. I don't need new technology. I can make everything else work. It's just, I wish I could afford better food.
One example, I think, of a country that offers education for free. I mean, there are a number of examples, some in Europe and other places, but the one I like to point my finger at as an example really is Cuba. Cuba, in great contrast to Canada, is economically what they call a third world country. It's a third world country that provides not only education but healthcare and many other necessities for free. And in the role of education, they've run into a problem, kind of the anti-problem that we have here in Canada. They have a surplus of educated people.
You have one new message. First new message. Hey, honey, I just want to let you know that Grandpa died on Friday. I just found out, so I guess you're not there. So I'll give you a call later on and we can talk. Talk to you later. Love you, honey.
Take 2.
Yeah.
Take 3, take 4, take 5.
2.
Take 2, okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
We're going to see if we can put some photos together and make up a little story, or what?
Biography of our life.
Oh.
After 43 years.
Okay, and we're still together, aren't we? So welcome to Biography by Dorothy and Steve.
Well, Ginger Goodwin was one of the workers in the turn of the century who had to leave England, and he traveled across Canada working in different coal mines.
You know, Ginger Goodwin himself has done a lot for Cumberland.
You know, you think back to one of the things he fought for was something we take for granted today, the 8-hour workday.
So to me, he was a working class hero, working class guy that was always there for workers.
Well, he was, I guess you'd say, a revolutionary and way before his time, maybe a born leader.
My experience in this community is he's a really controversial character. He's inspiring to a lot of people, but he also inspires hate.
We put a plaque on the mountain about Ginger Goodwin, but since somebody has been in there and tore it off, they must have known thereafter, because we had that cemented, like, you know, the pins and everything, unfortunately.
It was different here. You know, there was some hard feelings, and that sort of hangs in the air with the coal dust, right?
I think Ginger Goodwin was a political activist, first and foremost. He was involved in the Socialist Party of Canada,
trying to work for workers' rights, union rights, so he was upsetting the whole apple cart, if you will, in terms of productivity and production. And so instinctively the conservative philosophy would be that, well, wait a minute, you're interfering with my right to make a profit, with my right to make as much money as I want, and who the hell are you to tell me that I shouldn't do that?
Who's this?
This is Grace.
Grace. Grace?
Yeah, Grace.
Oh, what a lovely name. Beautiful teeth, too. Well, you're all teeth. Wow. You gonna stay there? No, you're not. There's too much going on in the house. See what I mean? No, I'm gonna put her up in my room. That's shut. That's shut. That's shut. They're all shut. Now I'll just leave her here on my bed. Here, you stay there, honey. Or you want to be Afghan, okay. You stay up here. And the windows are shut. I just checked, didn't I? She can't get them open. So where is she now? Well, where is she?
She's right behind you.
Well, if all the windows are shut, I could leave her up here and go down. She's got what she needs. I nearly got divorced over my dogs and cats, because I would prefer them to my husband, one of them. I was married twice, and didn't want anything different from the way he'd had it all his life, whether I liked it or not. And it didn't include letting cats stay in the house at night. So he put them out, and I'm not going to go along with that at all. All right, how's that?
Let me see.
You're not taking a picture of me. Oh, honey.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
Oh, is that my birthday?
Yeah.
Honestly, is it?
Yeah.
December 31st today?
Yeah.
I
You know
didn't.
how old you are?
No. Born in, I don't even remember when I was born.
Yeah, 13.
1913? I don't know. You figure it out.
95.
Oh, I'm still a chicken.
You are. Spring chicken.
Just a spring chicken, that's all.
The apostles, I mean, all the guys following Jesus were freaks. Can you imagine if they stopped and went through anger management classes before they went to work? No, this wasn't there. He hires 2 guys that are known terrorists to hang out with him. Again, these guys have issues to deal with. You know, if they took the North American approach, they'd sit around for years until they got it all worked out of their system. And the thing is, they never would. So they'd never get anything done. You know, like, You know, it's we have to be broken to serve, and you got to embrace that, accept the fact you're screwed, and then go do something. It's just frustrating. It's just absolutely frustrating. All these programs, all this time people spend in these things that they produce little to no fruit. It's so self-based. It's just like, oh, I gotta learn how to pray better, so I'm going to a 3-day like seminar on prayer. Or how about you just start praying? Like, and then trust that God knows what He's doing. You know, like it's if He can use the people in the Bible and through history who are a lot more screwed than most of us, I'm pretty sure it's a safe bet that we can actually pull off similar, you know, works in a sense. When I was called, I guess you could say, in my theophany, I was called to, as he put it, to build things up and tear things down, to destroy some of the stuff that's wrong with the church and build up things that are good in the church. So, and that's just been coming really pronounced lately. And I have little to no experience in the church background prior to that. I come from a completely deviant background. You know, I've got drug dealers and pimps and prostitutes and criminals of all types in my background. Two of my grandfathers were convicted child sex offenders. So yes, I'm well acquainted with the evil that men do.
God damn, 130.
130, eh?
Wow. Most everybody was 285, but that's I was probably like 180.
285. That's the most I've ever weighed. Wow.
Yeah, I was 180 probably when I got here.
Yep.
And so I lost 50 pounds in the 2 months. That all came from just the ulcer and not being able to eat anything. I met Ward when I was living on the wrong side of the street. I met Ward when he first came to town. He started him and Dave were doing a supper thing at the church by the 7-Eleven. And that summer, a friend of mine died, and Ward was the only person that seemed to have any kind of gumption period to put something together for a little memorial service for the guy. And he made that happen. I moved from living in a tent to living in a place to live, and the Ward asked me one day, he said, could I bring you something by? You need anything? And I said, oh, maybe a coffee maker or a little microwave. And 9 o'clock, the first night I was there, he did this big knock on the door, and there's Ward Draper with a coffee pot in his hand that he went to Walmart and bought. And so I've been impressed with the guy ever since, because what you see is what you get, and he's not afraid to get in and get his hands dirty, and he hasn't forgot where he came from.
I was speaking with a blind man, and he said the wonderful thing about rain is it outlines the contours of the immediate landscape around you. You hear the space. When we become more urban, we tend to really forget that basic pleasure in touching whatever the environment is.
You might as well just take off all your clothes and go sit in a chair. And I had a friend who did that once. He takes off his rain jacket and he just gets totally naked. He had this little smile on his face after. He's like, this is much better.
When you're not trying to duck to avoid the rain hitting your face, you can walk tall and proud, and you can look around and laugh at all the people whose heads are down, trying to avoid the rain.
You stand underneath it, and it's pouring rain outside, and it's gray, and it's dismal, and it's miserable, and you feel happy. Because whatever it is above you makes you feel happy. For one reason or another.
So Reva's tremor has been on the left, and her little seizures that she had have been on the left side. So I looked at this and looked up, and then whoa, I see something here, right? So you can clearly see that there's a difference between the right and the left side. For a tumor to get that big, as you saw in that other picture, it needs to have been growing very slowly for a long time, probably a millimeter or two a year. And Dr. Toyota had estimated that it might have been there as long as 10 years to do that, without causing very many symptoms for it to be so large.
On January 19th, I went in for surgery, and I was super excited because I'd been on all these pills to deal with the swelling in my brain, and they'd made me super chubby, and I was so over it, and I was like, yeah, let's do the surgery, get it over with, get rid of these chins, and yeah, and so I went in there and was just pumped, and was like, yeah, let's do it. So go into the surgery room, and it was just like on TV, like all these doctors and stuff, and they're all like, hey, what's up, like introducing themselves, and they were all young and gorgeous and just like doctors from TV, and I was just cracking jokes with them, like, yeah, guys, just make sure you're not having any of that Grey's Anatomy drama, and then I was out. And I woke up, I was like spinning and had this tiny headache, and just like, what's going on? Like, where was I last night? And then I realized I'd just woken up from brain surgery. I don't know, everything there was really blurry, and I got to the ICU and like all my family was there, and I don't know, I just had this cool ass turban on that was all like Afrikaan, and I had this like little bit of hair coming out of it, and I just sat in bed and had people bringing me gifts and flowers, and like so many people just coming in and supporting me, and my nurses were amazing at VGH. They were so nice, and I had this one, and we were just best friends forever.
Might be a little sore. There we go.
Feels delish. Is there brain juices on all that?
They're almost perfect in what they do.
So some people sleep with the lights on. It doesn't really matter if it's light or not. They're gonna go under the blankets.
You know you're gonna have these like bugs crawling on you when you go to sleep at night. You know, it's not conducive to a good night's sleep.
So when we turn off the light, my brother is like, Michelle, something is biting me. And I'm like, it should be a spider, just a slip. No, Michelle, it's really bad, it's really bad. Turn on the light, turn on the light. And I'm like, okay. So I turn on the light, and the first moment that I turn on the light, my bed and the floor and the walls, it was like infested of bedbugs.
It's totally trash now. I mean, if you look at it, it's cracked right there. From when I broke it on somebody's face in a fight.
I didn't come to you from New York City. My clothes knew my smiling pretty. Hey, my clothes knew my smiling pretty.
Just when I was playing on the street, somebody tried to steal my guitar, and they grabbed it and yanked it. So I poked him in the face with, just kind of like let him have it in the face. Then it really did, like, it was kind of almost snapped right off from that. It hurts to give so much of yourself for so long and to get so little recognition and or opportunity out of it. At a certain point, things just start to go sour inside you. And you start to feel really damaged.
I lost faith in myself, so I tried to sex appeal. It's great to have the day when you feel so real. It's too bad that I'm so good because I could have gone far. Wish I'd known I was alive before I wished on my star.
I've always felt I had to do that. I had to express those things. I'd watch videos like Prince and James Brown, and I'd think like I could be that, I could be like David Bowie or something like that. I thought I could be like this big, larger than life kind of, pop star or something like that. For me, music has just been basically, A, it's about survival, but B, it was about wanting to show people that you could express these things and you could be that open and you could be that out there and you could be that honest. That's what I wanted to be.